Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Doomsday Clock issue 11. Finally it has arrived. Good lord, the delays on Doomsday Clock are crazy. But you know what, every time we get an issue of Doomsday Clock it seems to be even better than the issue before. This particular issue, I gotta tell you, first off, right off, that I'm gonna talk spoilers. So, you know, in 10 seconds, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler warning, guys. If you don't want to be spoiled, maybe watch my video later. Or if you have to, don't watch it at all. It's up to you, but I don't want to, like, ruin it for anybody. Doomsday Clock number 11. So this is a spoiler-filled review, just a heads up. So, spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right, so everything that 99% of what I have been theorizing and others have been theorizing, because we've had so long to think about it because of all the delays, I'm actually right. We're actually right. We've read the clues, I think most of them correctly. And basically this issue was a little bit, this was a lot of a recap issue. This is basically, most of this issue is Ozymandias, basically explaining what we already theorized to be the case. That in fact, they came to the DC universe to follow Dr. Manhattan. His plan was to follow Dr. Manhattan to bring Dr. Manhattan back to the Watchmen universe, to sort of save the Watchmen universe after Dr. Manhattan left at the end of the pages of Watchmen. And basically, when Ozzy got here, in order to come here, Ozzy did manipulate events. He did, as we sort of theorized, that Ozzy did manipulate events. He brought the mime and Marionette with him. And of course, he brought the new Rorschach, who is Reggie Long, the son of Dr. Malcolm Long, who is the original Rorschach's, Walter Kovac's psychiatrist in the pages of Watchmen. Now, what's interesting here is we got some confirmation that we were theorizing about. So we remember back in issue 1 or 2 when Dr. Manhattan had confronted the mime and Marionette, and he never killed the mime or Marionette. He caught them in the middle of a bank robbery. We always suspected that he never killed Marionette because she was pregnant, and that maybe this whoever the child was of the mime and Marionette, maybe that child is a very special child that's going to grow up to be someone special. And the reason why Dr. Manhattan did not kill the mime and Marionette, did not kill specifically the Marionette, is because he saw the future. He saw that in the future, somebody that he was close to was going to adopt that child. And that person is a woman by the name who's referred to in the comic as Mrs. Hollis. Now, Mrs. Hollis, I'm assuming that is... That's why Ozymandias wanted the mime and Marionette to come with him, so that when he confronted Dr. Manhattan and he saw the mime and Marionette, Dr. Manhattan would be very reluctant to remove them from the playing field, particularly since the Marionette is still pregnant with that child. Now, I'm not really sure in terms of how... Is Dr. Manhattan aware that the original Watchmen universe has been destroyed in a nuclear war? The mime and Marionette's child is a blonde girl, and so it's a daughter. And could it be could it be somebody more significant that becomes somebody more significant in our reality? I don't know. I mean, who knows? The speculation there can go on and on. Now, Lex Luthor, in explaining things to Lois Lane, from, again, picking up from last issue, Lex Luthor shows Lois Lane this picture of this John Osterman, this man by the name of John, just shows up randomly in various places around the DC universe throughout time. There's certain chronal patterns and chronal energies that arise at various parts on the around the Earth at different time periods, and Lex Luthor theorizes that there's been somebody's tampering with their reality, tampering with their time periods, and Lex Luthor correctly theorizes that somebody has been messing with time, messing with the reality. And every time somebody messes with it, this photograph appears of who we know to be John Osterman and Janey Slater. Janey Slater. All we know, or all they know, is that Lex Luthor knows is that it's a man by the name of John, because that's the name in the picture. And the first appearance of this photograph, it appeared in April of 1938. Last year is when the issue came out. Last issue, we discovered that at various points in time, like April 1938, 1956, 1986, etc., just when we have these different comic book eras of the Golden Age, the Silver Age, the modern era of comic books, those coincide with appearances of Dr. Manhattan and new eras of Superman. So the metaverse every time there's been a change to the metaverse, it really does coincide with these changes, and also coincides where Dr. Manhattan seems to appear. Now, Dr. Manhattan does not seem to be aware of the fact that whenever he appears and goes back and forth in time, that this photograph basically appears. He leaves behind this photograph, almost like breadcrumbs, leading to Dr. Manhattan. Ozymandias theorizes that Dr. Manhattan is fascinated with the DC universe because he's finally in a universe that has people as superpowered as he is. Maybe not as powerful as Dr. Manhattan, but they're superheroes. Because remember, the Watchmen universe, the only superhero, the only metahuman in the Watchmen universe was Dr. Manhattan. So Dr. Manhattan's fascinated with this metaverse, this DC universe. But Ozymandias wanted to try to convince Dr. Manhattan to come back and save the Watchmen universe. Dr. Manhattan basically says no, and Ozymandias then decides, well, look, Ozymandias comes up with this plan to save both worlds, both the Watchmen universe and the DC universe. Now, of course, we know what happened the first time in the Watchmen when Ozymandias tried to save the Watchmen universe. It ends up destroying 3 million lives with this huge explosion, faking an alien invasion and all that jazz. Ozymandias then, that's what leads him to embark on what we already know that he's done from previous issues, namely to create the Superman theory, which is partially true. Dr. Stein did in fact work with the US government. They did manipulate Ronnie Raymond to become Firestorm. Ozymandias built on that, manipulated Ronnie Raymond. He manipulated and expanded on the Superman theory, creating a conspiracy theory, ultimately leading to Superman confronting Firestorm, the explosion in Russia, and ultimately creating Superman being imbued with various energies, becoming unconscious, healing himself at the Hall of Justice. Superman finally wakes up this issue. He finally wakes up because his eyes opened at the last panel of last issue, but Superman wakes up and he's got to catch up as to what's happening. The Nation of Kondak with Black Adam, they're basically saying, look, enough is enough, because as a response to the worldwide Superman conspiracy, the Superman theory, Black Adam was inviting all the heroes to come live in Kondak, Kandak, the Middle Eastern country, and he basically confronts Washington. He basically doesn't so much invade the U.S., although it's kind of like an invasion. He wants to talk to the president, and meanwhile, Putin has given an ultimatum because he wants Superman to be surrendered to Russian authorities for what happened in Russia. All this is happening. The world's on the brink. Meanwhile, Batman, there's a scene with Batman there trying to prevent a nuclear attack from beginning. So he's in some bunkers preventing the release of nuclear weapons. Wonder Woman is fighting Black Adam. She gets incapacitated, removed from the scene by her fellow Amazons, who remove her from man's world because they're going to leave man's world alone because it looks like it's on the brink, and they're basically going to try to save themselves. The so-called mission of peace that Wonder Woman is on hasn't exactly been going too well. Meanwhile, of course, we know from last issue that Ozymandias manipulated events so that the explosion, when they found the center of it, or they believed it to be on Mars. So Ozymandias manipulated the energies in such a way that when the Justice League tried to track the energies, it took them to Mars, where Dr. Manhattan was. They went to Mars. Dr. Manhattan took them all out, defeated all of them, and he's waiting now to confront Superman. So that's kind of where we're at now, and it's there's so much. All this is finally coming into play. This is really satisfying in the sense that, most of what I've theorized based upon the information in the previous issues has been accurate, and it's all coming into play. I like the fact that what we see now with the mime and Marionette's child, that maybe we know it's a daughter, we know she's about maybe 9-10 years old. At least she's shown when she's 9 or 10 years old. That takes place someplace in the future. Is that still going to exist? Is that still going to happen? We don't know. We also know that Ozymandias has got Saturn Girl captured and caged, as well as Johnny Thunder, who's a 96-year-old man, and he's Johnny Thunder from the Justice Society. And basically, Ozymandias, tries to talk to Saturn Girl, and Saturn Girl keeps annoying him, and Saturn Girl asks Ozymandias, why can't I read your mind? How come I can't read your mind? And Ozymandias says, basically suggests to her, look, does Superman even remember you? Because Saturn Girl insists that Superman's going to win. Superman always wins. She's from the future. She knows Superman wins. Unfortunately for Saturn Girl, she starts to disappear. She starts to disappear because, as Ozymandias points out, your timeline has likely been erased. That's why you're disappearing. But what's interesting is that while it appears as if the future timeline with the Legion of Superheroes has been wiped out, at least Saturn Girl seems to disappear. It's very interesting that her Legionnaire flight ring does not disappear. So that would suggest that there's still hope that the Legion of Superheroes could still exist in the future, because her Legion flight ring does not disappear. She disappears, but not the Legion flight ring. That's very interesting. What's also very interesting is that when it shows Johnny Thunder, the older Johnny Thunder, in his cage, in his prison cell, it shows him alongside his Green Lantern. So Alan Scott, so Alan Scott's Green Lantern that he could have reached for, but it was pulled away from him, 6 inches away from him. That is actually in the cell with Johnny Thunder. So why is that? Where did that lantern come from? Did Dr. Manhattan get it, or did somehow Ozymandias get the Green Lantern? And why is Alan Scott's lantern in the same cell as Johnny Thunder? That's what I'm a little bit unclear of, but maybe that's been in a past issue and I missed it. But so the Legion flight ring's still around, Alan Scott's Green Lantern is still there, and Johnny Thunder is still alive. But Saturn Girl's been taken off the field because her timeline's been erased. Meanwhile, it ends with Superman confronting Dr. Manhattan, because Superman is attacked by Black Adam. Superman wakes up, he tries to get appraised of the thing. Wonder Woman's taken off the playing field. Superman then has to take on Black Adam and Giganta and the Creeper and the rest of the sort of villains that are part of Kandak. And then they attack Superman, and Superman then suddenly confronts Dr. Manhattan. That's how it ends. Where is this going? I'm not sure. What is Ozzy's master plan here? Ozzy's plan basically says he wants to make this world hit rock bottom. He says only when you hit rock bottom can you start new again and start fresh. Sort of like he did in the pages of Watchmen. He felt hitting rock bottom, destroying New York City in what looked like perceived as an alien attack would unite the world. So it looks as if Ozzy's plan is to basically unite the people of the DC Universe, the citizens of the DC Universe, against the heroes, against Superman, so that they view that the real threat is Superman and the superheroes. So unite them against them, so that if you have a common enemy, it will facilitate peace, because you'll all have a common enemy to fight, and there won't be any borders anymore. This is what Ozzy thinks, and again, so much to talk about, so much to theorize about. I enjoyed this issue. It sort of brings everything into play. It was a good reminder issue. In terms of new information, I wouldn't say that there's a great deal of new information, but it definitely is something that would make you think. Lex Luthor has confirmed that photograph is the true anomaly, because every time that photograph has appeared, and Lex Luthor chronicled 11 different times throughout history where that photograph has been found. And in particular, I thought was a really nice callback to the first issue was that it was found in the estate of Cole Carver, the actor who died, that befriended Dr. Manhattan when Dr. Manhattan first appeared in 1938. In the estate of Cole Carver, a picture of it was found in one of the books called Walden 2. So that photograph was used as a bookmark in a book called Walden 2, the same book, Walden 2, written by B.F. Skinner, that Superman was reading in issue 1. So we got some callbacks here, and again, that's in the final pages of the issues, those supplementary pages at the end of the issue. A lot of interesting things here. There's also, out of those 12 items, the 11 items, the 11 times that the photographs were found in 1938, 56, 87, etc., etc., etc. There's also a 12th item found, and that is a picture of the Flash, Jay Garrick and Barry Allen, in the same image but at a different angle, of the Flash of Two Worlds, which in our time took place in 1961. That comic book was released in 1961, and that brought in and marked the beginnings of the multiverse. The first time that the concept of the multiverse was introduced in the DC Universe was in that comic book called The Flash of Two Worlds, which came out in 1961. And that picture, that 12th item, was one of the items that Lex Luthor found when he followed one of the chronal energies. He saw Wally West greet Barry Allen greet Wally West, which was the scene that we saw in Rebirth. So it's a harken back to Rebirth. And at that same time, the picture of Dr. Manhattan with Janey Slater and John Osterman was found there, as well as the picture of the Flash of Two Worlds. So, and various other personal items of Wally West were also found by Lex Luthor. So Lex Luthor knows that somebody's tampering with time, and he's He's trying to get to the bottom of things, and that's what he's letting Lois Lane in on. Now, meanwhile, Alfred reads Rorschach's journal, and he tries to find Reggie Long, because Reggie Long kind of went a little bit crazy. Because remember when Reggie Long found out that, in fact, Ozymandias did not have cancer and that he was sort of being manipulated, he sort of freaked out and he took off. Alfred finds Reggie Long sort of as a bum sleeping in an alley, and Reggie Long himself has a nightmare, and his mind is also a little bit crazy because he remembers, he has a nightmare, and in his nightmare he remembers his father, Dr. Malcolm Long, being killed by Walter Kovacs, who was the original Rorschach. Now that's not true, but his father, Malcolm Long, was killed in the destruction that destroyed New York City. And so, but in any event, he's now rebelling against his Rorschach persona. And of course, Alfred's trying to get him back, saying, look, we need your help. We need to prove Superman's innocence, because Rorschach is aware of Ozymandias' manipulation, and they need to prove to the world Superman's innocent in order to bring the world back from the brink of war, and so that Ozymandias' master plan does not come to fruition. So that's really how the issue ends. So many exciting things here. I know I missed all kinds of Easter eggs in here. Some I'm not going to mention. I might do a subsequent video. I might do a rant and rave video where I talk about it more. But all in all, this was really good. There's only one issue left, guys. It's nice to see we're clearly heading to what ultimately will be the revelation, I'm sure, of the Justice Society coming back into play, even the Legion of Superheroes coming back into play. It's very interesting right now that that's already been revealed in Scott Snyder's Justice League number issue 30. The Justice Society has already been introduced in Justice League 30, which I think it was originally planned to take. That revelation was originally planned to take place in the pages of Watchmen, but clearly editorially something's been going on at DC. Don't really know what it is. Why has the revelation of the Justice Society, in terms of where they are, why is their return in the pages of Justice League and not Doomsday Clock? It's hard to say. Doomsday Clock, and now it seems like it's its own separate story. I'm not really sure how this is all going to play into things. All I know is it's probably better to just enjoy Doomsday Clock, maybe as a separate story, because it's still a pretty good story. I like the way all the pieces sort of fit, and they fit into play. I love how it's illustrating the characters, the genius of Lex Luthor as he pieces all this out, as he was always, the way Johns has sort of factored in Rebirth, the reunion between Barry Allen and Wally West. That the importance of the picture, how psychologically Dr. Manhattan, when he goes from timeline to timeline, he seems to leave an emotional part of himself behind, and I think it shows how much he loved her, because he's always leaving that photograph behind, and so there must be a significance to that photograph. What is it about it? It might be symbolic of Dr. Manhattan trying to maintain his humanity. He's trying to get his humanity back, because no matter what timeline he goes to, he always leaves a part of himself behind, that part of himself that he loves, that he misses, that he wants to regain. It's like he's losing a part of his soul. He's losing a part of his love all over again in the form of the picture every timeline he's in. And then in every timeline Dr. Manhattan is in, it affects the DC universe, and it starts all over again, and it reboots again, or it causes another crisis, or it does something. So very interesting how all that comes into play. There's so many moving parts here. I find it intriguing. I can't wait to read this all again as one giant read. But again, we're just at issue 11. Next issue with 12, we get Superman and Dr. Manhattan confronting each other. What's going to happen? How are things going to resolve? How is the timeline going to be preserved? How is the future going to be preserved? How is the past going to be preserved? Ozymandias made a very interesting comment to Johnny Thunder in prison, when he said to him that, Saturn Girl has disappeared from the timeline, but she's from the future. He said something very interesting to Johnny Thunder. He's saying that you're part of the past, you're okay. Now, why would Ozymandias think that the past is protected? Why is the past okay? Because I wouldn't think that the past was protected given Dr. Manhattan's travels, but that was an interesting comment. Again, there's still some questions here. I love the mystery as to who the offspring of the Mime and Marionette may grow up to be now that the Watchmen universe has essentially been destroyed in a nuclear war. What's going to happen with the Marionette's child? What's the significance of that child? Or is it even significant anymore? Who knows? I would love to know Geoff Johns' original intention with the storyline. One gets the sense that perhaps they made some significant changes along the way here. It's still a good storyline. It's well worth the read. And guys, tell me anything you think I've missed. Leave your comments down below. This is really great. Hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.